Hello, it's Martin from Wisely Automotive. I'm just outside of King's Cross in London. I don't have much time before I catch my train, so let me get back to you from the destination, but I'm picking up something quite unique today, so definitely keep watching. I board the Grand Central service heading north towards Leeds. It's a crisp winter day, but no rain in the weather forecast and very few clouds in the sky, at least by British standards. Which is great, because rain can significantly increase the energy consumption of an EV, or any car for that matter. After transferring connections, I get off at a small train station within walking distance from the auction centre. As I get closer, the one example which catches my eye out of the hundreds in the lot is an original Tesla Roadster. If in good condition, those must go for crazy money these days. I don't have much time to film when I'm picking the car up, so I just quickly check all the bodywork, making sure that any damage is recorded in the collection paperwork, and remove the auction stickers to get an unobstructed view through the windscreen. With that complete, I can now show you what I'm dealing with. Okay, it's very windy, but let me try my best. I have picked the car up and have driven it to a nearby pot point. So before I continue talking, let me plug in. Floor mats are in, and so is the Type 2 cable. So this is very difficult to do one-handed. Now the folks over at the auction center were nice to charge the car, but I would like to go as full as possible for the trip, just so I don't have to make any additional charging stops on the way to London. We were not sure whether the car would come with a Type 2 cable, so I brought my own for nothing, but let me put it in the boot. So from the outside, from a distance, for it being a 2014 car, nothing really stands out. So it's the pre-facelift, so it has the fake grille in the front, and we have the Autopilot 1 suite, so the radar and a single camera in the windscreen. In terms of condition, we have got a few scrapes on the side, but that will probably get painted and will look like new again. We've got the pre-facelift headlights, which yes are not LEDs, but at least they don't have problems with the daytime running lights. Sitting on 19-inch wheels with Michelin tires, which seem to have quite a bit of tread left. Moving down the side, not much until we get to this point in the back. I don't quite know what happened here. It's the same on the other side, but hopefully, this is just a plastic trim piece, so should not be too difficult to fix. The rear door keeps popping open, and I've noticed that this door handle is a bit finicky. If you look here, this is definitely loose, so that will need to be swapped for one of the newer ones. But for now, let's just slam it shut, and hopefully it does not open again. And not much else in the back. The drivetrain on this one, it's the P85, so it's the most powerful rear-wheel drive only. But if we go in, you will see that the car thinks that it's a P90. That means that the car had a battery replacement, probably under warranty. And that in fact makes it very unique, because it means it's rear-wheel drive with only a single performance motor, but it also has the bigger 90 kWh battery. In terms of the other spec, it's looking pretty good. So we do have air suspension, we do have the Autopilot, or Highway Autopilot as it used to be called on AP1, the cold weather package with all 5 heated seats and heated windscreen wipers, or rather the storage for the windscreen wipers. So overall pretty good. Interior wise, it's the cream interior, pretty good condition for the age. A few stains which will need to be cleaned, for example on the headliner, but nothing too dramatic which won't come out. And the opening sunroof. Also, I need to remember to authorize the charge because this is a free charger, so just like all the other free pot points, it would cut out after 15 minutes if the app decides to work. Okay, here we are. And which one am I on is the question. I have to get out even though it's super cold. Yeah, that's the stock door handle. So high-row page, socket, perfect. You see, there's a lot of things to say because these Model S's, they don't have the center console, so they have this very flat floor with a massive storage area. I've also noticed that the door card is coming off. It's a very frequent issue on these early Model S's, but it's just held on by clips, so hopefully should just pop back in. Anyways, car is happily charging now at 30 amps times 240 volts, so 7.2 kilowatts, and I haven't had lunch, so I will grab something from the shopping mall and then off I go back home. And did the other side lock? Yes, that's in as well. Good. Okay, food acquired. Plant-based because environment matters. If someone gives me a tough time for eating in a Tesla, let me remind you that this car will need to undergo a full interior clean regardless of whether I eat in it or not. Okay, so no comments. I'm done with the food, just need to find a bin somewhere. It got a lot busier since I started, so an e-Niro, e-tron and a Nissan Leaf all charging now. It's a bit tight, and this door card is coming off as well. Small camera on the side, big camera suction mounted to the roof, everything plugged in. Screen 1 clean, screen 2, well, I wouldn't go as far as saying as clean, but less greasy. Trip computer reset. And the previous owner definitely knew how to set up a Tesla because acceleration standard, steering mode comfort, regen on standard as well. No creep, and yeah, I think that's it. Wisely Automotive set in the sat-nav. Ooh, is looking for superchargers. No. Come on, why? Why do I need to supercharge? If I remove charging stops, will I get home? Ooh, 5% on arrival. That might be tight. This battery state of charge in miles is totally pointless, so I actually need to change that to energy. So now that's more like it in percentage, and I will just use the energy app in the infotainment to gauge how well or not well I am doing. I will have AC running probably on, I can make it 20 degrees because I don't want to be cold. And an Ioniq has pulled up, so I will probably get on with my journey and let them charge. I moved out of the way because it's getting really busy over there. I will need to very quickly sort out this back door because the door handle is causing absolute chaos. But yeah, supposedly 5% on arrival. I need to cross-check with the weather app because there is a strong wind outside. So if we get any headwind, that would be a problem. And there is a lot of side wind. So I'm still undecided on what to do. The reason why this is such a big deal is because, number one, I cannot use CCS rapid charging because this car does not support CCS. So my only form of available rapid charging are these Tesla superchargers, But because the car isn't passed into our account yet, I have no guarantee that it will work, and I really do not want to get stranded somewhere with a couple of percent left. I set off with the mindset that I should be using as little performance of this Performance Model S as possible to avoid sending the energy consumption through the roof. The navigation system takes me on the route I expected, right onto the M62, later joining the A1. It's not long before I encounter some traffic, which is a great opportunity to relax in autopilot mode. I have done a similar journey in a Model 3 with the newer second generation autopilot, so if you want to compare the two systems, make sure to watch that video as well. One thing becomes clear to me very quickly, and that's that Autopilot 1 seems to be a lot more aggressive and twitchy on the acceleration and braking. The newer system seems to be better at flowing with the traffic at low speeds and smoothly decelerating for any vehicles changing lanes. But overall, it's definitely a lot nicer than not having any driver assistance at all. Especially if you consider the release date, it's quite impressive that it could already monitor multiple lanes of traffic and see two vehicles ahead by processing the radar signals which bounce underneath and around the vehicle immediately ahead. It can also change lanes on motorways semi-automatically. What I mean is that Autopilot cannot take instructions from the nav system to position itself in the correct lane to follow the directions, but it will change the lane for me when I indicate and there is no vehicle in the blind spot. Back to my journey plan though. Despite the traffic situation reducing my cruising speed, the estimated state of charge on arrival in the office keeps decreasing. Even as I try to adjust the heating to use a bit less energy, the car keeps insisting I shouldn't be driving over 65 miles per hour to reach my destination, later dropping the value to 60 miles per hour. I didn't plan this, but I got a chance to properly test out the brakes. They do indeed work. In fact, the emergency brake assist kicked in that situation. It has been required on all new cars in the EU since 2009. Even on vehicles without the forward cameras or radars, it helps the driver apply maximum braking pressure when he detects an emergency stopping scenario based on the pedal inputs. Anyways, I unfortunately don't have the patience to drive on a motorway at 60 with the heating turned down just to avoid a charging stop. Plus, as the energy consumption stabilizes and I start doing the math in my head, the reality is becoming very clear that going all the way back to the office without a top-up would be cutting it really close. Something I don't want to do on a car which has probably not been driven for a good while before I picked it up, causing the battery management system to be quite possibly off by some margin. Again, the margin I need to not get stranded. With that in mind, and the fact that I need to use the bathroom anyways, I decided to bail out at the Grantham supercharger right along the route, just like the route planner initially suggested. A couple of miles out, the car started heating up the battery to ensure it's ready for rapid charging at the best possible speed, same as on the latest Teslas. Upon arrival, I am wasting no time to see whether I am about to have a long night ahead. One prayer to Elon. Please work. And yes, I'm supercharging. It's probably going to charge the previous owner. I have no idea whether this car has free supercharging, but either way, I just need a quick top up to safely get back, ideally at 70 miles per hour and with the heating on 22 degrees. I'm receiving 50 kilowatts at 68%, so this 2014 car is clearly not quite keeping up with the latest Teslas, but it's still respectable, and comfort-wise I have no complaints. These are the sort of standard seats, which do not have as much side support as the next generation seats and have a pretty flat base, but I've so far found them quite comfortable, definitely no worse than the Audi e-tron, which I personally found far too firm. But let's see how the rest of the journey will go. I will put our showroom into the sat-nav, so wisely. It's finding superchargers again, but we will say continue trip from this one. Okay. And it's currently estimating 8% on arrival. So I think I will stay a bit longer just to get a safe buffer of, let's say, 15%, because I want to have the heating on, as I said. ETA at 8:30. Still 125 miles and about 2.5 hours of driving to go. Car is estimating 5 more minutes to continue the trip safely, so let me show you the Grantham supercharger setup in the meantime. There are 60 installs here, all of them seem to be double-headed, each capable of supplying up to 150 kilowatts. Plenty of availability, even though it's getting a bit busier now, but of course, as always, while I was rambling, the car is already at 85%, so it's time to go. I have an estimated about 22% on arrival, so plenty, should not be a problem. I can travel in comfort, and I will let you know the total stats for the trip when I get back. So far, about 67 miles covered at 352 watt-hours per mile. Honestly, considering it's pretty much winter time in the UK with about 5 to 10 degrees outside and I have the heating on, and especially towards the end I started driving constantly at 70 miles per hour, I would say that's pretty good so far. Unplugged and ready to continue, so straight back onto the A1M and onto Autopilot. It's handling roads like these very well, but I have started noticing a couple of issues. I'm not sure whether it's the camera not correctly seeing the adjacent lane or a restriction based on location or surroundings, but the car just doesn't want to change lanes on its own. Even in well-lit scenarios, and I definitely had much more consistent experience with the Autopilot 2 when it comes to auto lane changes. Secondly, the path planning seems to occasionally glitch when going over hill crests. Here it started drifting into the left lane, but because I had a good grip on the wheel, auto steer disengaged. On the positive side though, I haven't experienced a single instance of phantom braking when passing lorries during the entire trip, which I unfortunately couldn't say about the second generation Autopilot. With this being mostly an efficiency motorway trip, I haven't had a chance to try out the handling yet, so I'm definitely keeping pace through this roundabout. As expected, despite this being a rear-wheel drive car, it's tuned to be very neutral and drives like it's on rails, with practically no body lean and no drama. Not much else to comment on for the rest of the journey until I got to the Rotherhithe tunnel. Here you start to feel the big exterior dimensions of the Model S, but it's still perfectly manageable. Attempting to take a Model X through here may be pushing it a bit far though. It's only a couple of minutes to get to the showroom. We are pretty full, but I managed to squeeze the S in just fine. In fact, quite a nice mix of models on offer at the moment. That's the day complete. Trip summary and nerdy stats to follow. Okay, it's a couple of weeks later and I'm sitting in our company i3, but I did take some numbers down, so let's go through them now. First, the consumption for the second leg of the journey was very similar to the first one at 348 watt-hours per mile. That means the total energy to complete the whole trip was 68.1 kilowatt-hours, which is about 80% of the 85.5 kilowatt-hours usable of the 90 pack. Keep in mind that with zero battery degradation and given I set up with just over 80% state of charge, I think you see why the charging stop was really justified. Referring back to the efficiency, again if there was no battery degradation at all, this car would have been able to complete above 240 miles on a charge. Considering it is an over 2-ton performance Model S with a combination of 2014 and 2016 technology, I would say that's pretty good. Comfort-wise, the seats are definitely not as soft and armchair-like like the newer Teslas, but for me personally they work totally fine. Lastly, I was recommended to include the energy cost in these trips to see how it compares to petrol or diesel cars. Very simple in this case. The car does indeed have free supercharging for life, plus the free charging session at the PodPoint AC charger. It brings the total to exactly £0. If you charged at home at a these days typical tariff of 30p per kilowatt hour, the total would come to £20.43. To put it into perspective, to get the same price with a diesel vehicle, at today's prices of around £1.65 per litre, it roughly works out to 72 miles per gallon. So good luck finding a 400 horsepower car the size of a Model S which can achieve that in the real world. I think that's it for this vlog. I hope I covered everything you wanted to see. The car is now in the paint shop to bring it up to our standard. I can show you the result in the next vlog. Once again, thank you very much for watching and see you in the next one.